You're tuned in to Our NC Radio, your weekly update on everything Forsyth County. Join the conversation as we meet the leaders shaping our future and the issues that matter most to you. Stay connected every week as we dive into what makes our community tick. Hey Brady, how you doing?
Hey Dave, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
I'm happy to do it. It's always good to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those of us that don't know who Brady is, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and kind of let us know a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm a local resident of Lewisville. I've lived in the Lewisville area all of my life. I grew up in Sequoia, and when I was in the high school age, we moved to Lewisville Trails, and so grew up here, and then I spent my college years in Charlotte. And when I moved back, I took a job here in Winston-Salem. I work in finance, and I bought a house back in Lewisville. And so outside of my college years, all I've known is Lewisville. And so I've grown to love the community, and having traveled a lot of places and lived in a bigger city like Charlotte, through that experience, I learned that Lewisville is a special place. It's a place that, when compared to others, it's very unique. The community here is really close-knit, and I really love that. And so I am running this upcoming November for Lewisville Town Council for one of the 6 seats on the council, and I'm really excited to serve the people and make an impact.
Yeah, it's cool because I saw your Facebook post. I met you online. You reached out to me. I think it was on Facebook too, when I was talking about involving some businesses on the podcast, and you helped me connect with Jeff at the coffee mill. And you're like, well, you're in your seat now here at the coffee mill, but you're part of the furniture almost. It's like every time I come in, you're in, and we're able to take advantage of the space after they're closing, which is kind of cool. And you're starting to become a little bit of a little social media star on the coffee page.
Yeah,
Do your little morning skits.
We'll give the coffee mill a shout out here. I call it the greatest place on earth, because it is the greatest place on earth to me. I am here just about every day, and I start my morning here every morning. I wake up every morning. My routine is I get ready, and then I drive to the coffee mill. I have my breakfast in the freezer in the back. I'm part of the family here. I make my breakfast, and after that, I sit here and I read my Bible, because faith is a big part of my life. And then the workers here, and especially the owner, Jeff, who you interviewed, and the manager, Kurt, they are really good friends of mine. And so we have that relationship, and I became a part of the family just by being close with them and coming here a lot. And we started Coffee Chats with Brady on Instagram.
Yeah, how's that going?
Every Monday morning, a clip is released. We usually film it on Wednesdays, and it's been more successful than I think we thought it would be. It usually gets between 1,500 and 2,500 views, and we describe it as funny and informative. And so I give informative information about coffee or things going on with the coffee mill. I try to crack some jokes. I don't have any script with it. I think of it all off the top of my head. Maybe there's a second take, but usually that's it. And it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. I like it. It's a neat little, it's a little something different you see in your feed, and you do a pretty good job with some puns and stuff that you put in there. It's pretty good. So you mentioned you're running for town council, and you love Lewisville. I do too. I mean, I'm a Lewisville resident as well, and it's a great place to live. Why why get involved with town politics? Like, what is it that kind of drew you to wanting to run for the office?
Well, it goes back, I'd say, around 2 years. Back in 2023, I started to hear about the Great Wagon Road. And I know for our listeners who are not familiar with the Great Wagon Road, I'll give some background. The Great Wagon Road has been in the planning for Lewisville for approximately 30 years. And I was kind of shocked whenever I, as a younger person, learned about the Great Wagon Road and that there is going to be a new main road being built through Lewisville. And so I started to look into it, initially with concern and learn why are we making this road. And then as I looked into that more, I learned more about the town politics, and I started going to the town hall meetings. We have, as a town, 2 meetings a month, a briefing meeting where the council is briefed on all of the issues going on, and then the regular town council meeting where it's streamed and they vote on decisions and all of the typical things. So I would go to the meetings, and I learned why the Great Wagon Road is necessary for the future controlled growth of the town and for the control of traffic through the town as well. And so that was kind of my entry point. And then I delved more into the town politics and became passionate about it. One, because I love the town of Lewisville. This is where I grew up. Again, I think it's a special community, so it means more to me. And two, I've always been interested in government as a whole, the politics behind government, and within that is serving people. We look at the news media and how controversial and messy politics get. However, at the end of the day, it is about serving people for their greater good.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you. That's what it should be, and like just point blank, stop. Like you're here to serve, others, and it's good to have that mindset going into it because, unfortunately, I don't think that that's always the case. Some people have ulterior motives, and make decisions that are in the best interest of themselves or their friends, and don't necessarily think of what's best for the entire community. Obviously, when it comes to politics, you can't please everybody,
No,
right?
you can't.
Because some folks are going to have different opinions, and I think how do you grapple with that? Like, for somebody that's interested in running for office, um, how do you one get to know the people that you're trying to serve so that you can make a good decision for them, and two, hear as many varying opinions as possible.
Yeah, so I think the key to learning what the opinions are of the jurisdiction in which one serves is being out within the community. As I mentioned, I'm here at the coffee mill just about every day, and by being here, I've gotten to learn many people within the community. I've made so many connections, and so you meet people in the community and engage in regular conversation with them, and throughout that conversation, you get to kind of naturally hear what their opinions are of things going on within their life, within the country as a whole, and also within this specific community. And during those conversations, I can also ask them specific questions about how they feel about things in the community, issues within the community. And as far as grappling with varying opinions that people have, we have to ultimately satisfy the majority because people have uh, differing opinions and no one is going to always agree. And hopefully, people elect the person that they are most aligned with. And so, as I express what my opinions and what my platforms are, hopefully that aligns with the majority if I were to be elected. And I intend to continue to connect with the community, hear those voices and opinions, and serve the majority and what is the best interest in the majority in the best way that I can.
Yeah. So you've been out in the community. You've met a lot of people. You made the connections, like you said, and you've had discussions. What is it that you're hearing from folks that live here in town? Um, how do they feel? Like, what's the temperature like? Are they happy? Are they not happy? What are some of the biggest things that have been brought to your attention that could be changed or improved upon? From kind of where we're at right now, or is it relatively positive?
The overall temperature that I hear from Lewisville residents as I engage with them is that they are very happy with the state of Lewisville currently, and they have concern for where Lewisville will be 5, 10, 15 years from now. And I overwhelmingly hear that people love how Lewisville is a small town. There is a unique small town character to Lewisville, and there are things that help to contribute to that small town feel. There are no drive-through restaurants, for example, allowed in Lewisville. There is a big community encouragement here in Lewisville, and people love the culture that has created, and they don't want that to change. Um, some items that I've heard people wish to change in Lewisville. They'd like to have a greater presence of local restaurants, to have more options to support local Lewisville businesses. And we do have some great restaurants here in town. Some of my favorites, we have Liberty Restaurant. I eat there every Friday for lunch at minimum, and I'm often there more times than that. Antonio's has great pizza. Alex's is also another great choice, but people want more of that, and I think that is one item that people mention to me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I Another thing I think would be beneficial would be making it a little bit more walkable. I think having more businesses that people want to go to, um, obviously restaurants make people want to sit in one place for a little while. And when you compare that with, a shopping destination, I feel like the mill, like where we're at right now, you can grab a cup of coffee, you can go check out, some shops that are in the same kind of area. It gets people out and about, kind of walking around, and if it goes pretty well, like if you were going to have an event, folks can kind of explore a little bit more of the town. Um, putting a restaurant just like kind of on an island where there's nothing else, I don't know if that necessarily is going to, enhance the vibe as much as we would want. Although having more food options would always be welcomed for sure. But how do you do that as a council person? Because like, are you thinking like how would you go about, I guess, addressing that, or making a change, to kind of encourage another restaurant to come in or another business type of business, that kind of thing?
Well, I have a few thoughts. So, no matter how our residents feel, whether it be positively or negatively about the Great Wagon Road, it's a fact that it is coming through town, and we have to make the most of it. And there are going to be sidewalks down the Great Wagon Road, so it will increase walkability to the shops and the hopeful restaurants that come along there. And so I think that will increase pedestrian friendly travel to and from Lewisville businesses. And I think that will give good opportunity for controlled growth there of local businesses. And that's one thing I'm excited to be a part of as a future town councilman. I hope to be a part of setting the culture for the Great Wagon Road. It will be up to the next council and the councils after that as zoning decisions and similar decisions are made for that Great Wagon Road area what kind of businesses come in and establish there on the Great Wagon Road. I am hoping that the kinds of businesses that get established on the Great Wagon Road will be things like local restaurants, local shops. I know that on Shallowford Road we have professional offices such as medical offices, insurance, attorneys, and we love those businesses, but I would like to see some shops, restaurants, and other local businesses such as that establish themselves on the Great Wagon Road. Um, and I think another idea that I'm hopeful to encourage in Lewisville is for the town to be a greater part of local business in our local economy. And here's what I mean by that. I would like for the town to highlight local business and support local business as much as they can. So, for instance, partnering with local businesses or the new Discover Lewisville in some way, and hosting events in Shallowford Square or one of the other venues that the town has to highlight local businesses in the area, to give them support and publicity, or perhaps help with any other need that they have as appropriate.
Gotcha. That's cool. So, obviously, I mean, keeping large franchises or big corporations out of Louisville would, you know, help maintain that small town feel. When you don't have like, a big chain, like a bunch of chain restaurants or, businesses like that. Um, and I am very interested to see kind of what happens with the Great Wagon Road and kind of how that evolves because I mean, it's coming. You mentioned how long it's been in the works. And when I was talking to Mayor Horn, he said like 18 months, something like that, from um, like to completion, which is kind of wild to think about. Like, I've already seen some DOT guys out there kind of like surveying the land and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess here we go. It's going to be a pretty dramatic change.
Yeah, and the town recently shared at their briefing, which I was present for, that there is now a contractor that is under contract with the DOT. They go under contract March 31st, and they will be starting on the Great Wagon Road on the end of town where Food Lion is and working their way over. And so it is coming soon.
Yeah. So that's something that people have voiced to you that they want to kind of like what if anything they could improve on um, as far as the town. And you had mentioned no drive-through restaurants. What what do you think could be improved upon? Because I know that's kind of like that's been a thing for a little while, right? Is there anything that you feel like as a town council person you could um, improve upon from what we're doing currently?
In regard to ordinances such as the no drive-throughs, or what specifically?
Yeah, really. I'm just curious because like you know when I was speaking with I'm just when I was speaking to Mayor Horn, I asked him if there's anything that because he's been involved in the town for a really long time. I was like, is there anything that you would change, or any decisions you've changed, like would have done a little bit differently or whatever. And he was pretty happy with everything, kind of, as it's played out. And I'm just curious, like for somebody that is thinking about or is planning on going into town politics, out looking outside of Louisville and looking at other areas of the country or other towns that you feel like have done a good job, like using the best, taking care of like the community, maintaining a small town feel, but also enhancing the community by, um, either enacting certain policies or ordinances that foster growth, foster business growth, improve the lives of the people that live here. Is there anything that you've come across? Any new ideas necessary? That you could think of that you may want to introduce or kind of bring up in discussion?
Right now, my top priority is protecting the culture that we have. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with a resident, and we were here at the coffee mill, and I was telling him about how I'm running and things like that. And he said, what was a sarcastic statement, but it revealed the truth behind what he meant in that. He said, when I get up in front of people, perhaps at the candidates forum that will be held in October, tell them that what I intend to do to Lewisville is nothing. And of course, any person who runs for office intends to do uh, positive change. They intend to take action. But what he meant by that statement is to keep Lewisville as much as possible the way that it is, the same feel and things like that. And so, as mentioned, there's going to be growth, such as the Great Wagon Road. There's going to be continued residential growth. However, amongst all of that inevitable growth, I would strive to control that growth in a way that allows us to keep our same culture. And so, whatever action needs to be taken to help to make sure that happens, that is what is my top priority.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I love Louisville. I don't have anything in my mind that I'm thinking like, needs to be changed or anything like that. I'm just curious because I'm kind of getting a little bit more into local government and politics now that, with the podcast and everything like that. But I'm just curious if there's any trends or things that have taken place other places that we could borrow to kind of um, improve upon. You know what? Actually, now that we're talking about this, I remember a conversation you and I had on the porch out here about fostering new restaurants and stuff. And we were talking about the events at Shalford Square, right? So we have the food truck festival, right, that we host. Um, I was wondering, and maybe this is something to kind of think about if you do end up getting elected or when you get elected. Um, there's people that are either local to the area or are aspiring to start their own business or start a restaurant or something like that. And maybe they're not from Louisville, but they want an opportunity to kind of showcase what they can do. Um, bringing in either a food truck um, area to the Great Wagon Road or the square, or having, a food truck that serves like barbecue, or like, there's a Bear Creek barbecue that just kind of started setting up in town, and then like a dessert truck or something like that, and pairing that with the normal events that we have might be an opportunity to um kind of scratch that itch that people might have. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we want more food options. um we already want to kind of bring people out to these events as well. Like, maybe we partner with a rotation of food trucks or something like that to kind of, while we're waiting on brick and mortar restaurants to show up, maybe we have that opportunity to kind of bring in more choices or variety for like food options and stuff like that. Is that something that you would consider?
Yeah, I think that is something I would consider. I think that would help to support those businesses as they get established and help businesses that may not be in the area yet and are aspiring to grow get exposed to Louisville. And so, as we have further development opportunities of small businesses, it would expose them to maybe consider coming into the area. And my only concern with that would be providing a competitor of that food truck or whatever it is similar that occurs to other local restaurants in the area. But I think finding the best way to do that would definitely be something I'm interested in. And I love how we see um, things like that are occurring now, just
Mm.
not initiated by the town, naturally occurring, like the barbecue food truck that you mentioned. I actually stopped there this past Sunday on my way home from the gym. I was really hungry, and right after a workout, I was craving something a little bit unhealthy, so I got their bear rolls, and they were fantastic. I'll give them a shout out for their bear rolls.
Yeah, and shout out Little Donuts too. Selfishly, that's a buddy of mine owns that business, and I help him out, and I brought it out here to Louisville several times.
I've had
And
those donuts. They're fantastic.
they're good. They're good. But yeah, that's there's some things that lend better to a temporary kind of event type, you know, food. You wouldn't always want to necessarily. I mean, some people would probably always love to have Little Donuts, but bringing in a little bit more variety. You mentioned not competing with like existing businesses and stuff like that, but there's times that those businesses are maybe not open, or um, people are already going to drive somewhere else to get that type of food because they feel like it's not available. And hey, why don't we keep it here in Louisville? That could be an option too, to maybe incorporate some kind of a fee to kind of help that business out with marketing, but also allow the town to get some skin in the game and raise funds for other projects that maybe we don't want to raise taxes for.
Yeah.
Like more sidewalks or that kind of thing. I did hear that on Louisville, Vienna, we ran out of money for sidewalks, which is a little unfortunate. But anyways, I don't want to get too off topic because this is kind of more about you. What is it? What are some of the things you've done in the community? Obviously you're here in the coffee mill a lot. You talk to a lot of people in town. But as far as community service, if you are going to be a leader in the community, obviously you're going to have to um, have a heart for that type of thing.
Absolutely.
So I'm just kind of curious, like, what are you up to now? What kind of has led you to take that next step?
I love serving the community, and the biggest driver behind that, as I mentioned earlier, faith is a big part of my life. And I'm a Christian. Uh, One of the things I aspire to be a part of the way that I conduct myself as I hold public office is by my Christian values. I attend Two Cities Church, which is in downtown Winston, and a special thing about that church is it stretches all throughout the greater area, and we have many residents of Lewisville who attend Two Cities Church, and I lead a community group that is a part of the church, and it meets here in the coffee mill on Tuesday nights, and it's like a Bible study, but more than a Bible study. We study the Bible on Tuesday evenings, but we also establish a community bond with one another, and we also serve the community together as well. And so leading that group is really special to me and something that I'm passionate about. I'm also part of the Louisville Civic Club, and as I was looking forward in the year to the Civic Club, I reached out to Bo, who is over the scholarship committee there, looking for greater ways to serve. And I plan to be a part of the scholarship committee this year. The Louisville Civic Club gives three $1,500 scholarships to students in Forsyth County, graduating high school seniors each year. And so I will be a part of the scholarship committee in helping to review those applications and also to interview the students to select the applicants who are chosen. I'll also give a shout out to that scholarship program because I was told that there are applicants, but not nearly as many applicants as they would anticipate. The Civic Club reaches out to local schools in the county to get some interest. However, there isn't as much response as one would think. And so, if you're listening and know of a graduating high school senior, encourage them to apply for the Louisville Civic Club scholarship. But back on topic, faith is a big part of the way that I serve community, and just looking for ways in my community, like the Louisville Civic Club or other happenings that go on, in which I can plug myself into that and serve in whatever way I can have an impact.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and it's something that really lends well. There's a lot of principles and values that I think are shared by most of the people in the community that a Christian faith will lend itself to. taking care of others, treating others with respect, and um, yeah, it's fantastic. Um, One thing I did want to also ask you about, because this is somewhat of a controversial topic, is the staggered terms, and then also having to basically state if you're Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated or independent. Um, Here's our Lewisville Fire Department coming down the road right now. Probably can hear that. But let's tackle the partisanship in local government. Let me hear your thoughts about that. Kind of, what do you feel about that whole issue, or is it an issue? Are you positive, negative? What are your thoughts?
I think there are positives and negatives to the issue. I'll highlight the negatives first. Louisville, since its incorporation in 1991, will it has been nonpartisan since then, and I think that at the small town level, it provides for people to coincide from all political parties and come together for the greater purpose of the community. And I think being nonpartisan has allowed for some of the radical politics of Republican or Democrat to, as much as possible, be out of the local level. And I think introducing the partisanship gives opportunity for radical left or radical right to come into the town. And what my fear is for radical left or radical right individuals to come in and that be their focus, those political ideologies to be their focus, um, rather than the greater good of the community of Lewisville. I'll be running as a Republican here this year. If there are more than six candidates who file who are Republican, there will be a primary race. And so that is how I affiliate. However, as I intend to serve the people of Lewisville, I'll be more focused on serving the people of Lewisville rather than Republican ideologies. I lean more in my personal politics toward Republican ideologies. However, I don't want that to mask what is the greater good of the town of Lewisville. Positive features that this new legislation could have are it could potentially get people involved who are not previously involved. I think partisanship, for some reason, excites people, and I think we can take that element and make a benefit out of it because some of the individuals who get excited about partisanship, Republicans or Democrats who get excited about their party, uh, are not those radical individuals that I mentioned. And given that, I think it gives an opportunity for those people to be involved in local government. And we want as many people as possible to be involved in their community, to be involved in their local government. And so I see that opportunity. The state mentioned as their reasoning for enacting that legislation to make municipalities within Forsyth County partisan, the potential for greater voter turnout if there is partisanship. And whether or not that is true, the data will show. I hope that it's true because I think that would be really great. And so that is a potential benefit for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that. I guess you're right. If you have folks that are diehard one way or the other, they want to come out and support their party. You mentioned, um, people that could come in potentially and be really far one way or the other and have a negative impact, on the town. I'm just curious, like, what would that look like? I mean, have you thought about that at all? Like, what are some of the things, or maybe because I haven't been involved in this all that long, is there people in the past that have come in and proposed radical changes that kind of align with a really far left or far right leanings that Um, you know, has that come up in the past, and like, what did that look like?
I don't know specific examples from the past. However, I have some scenarios in my mind that could
Yeah,
play
yeah,
out in this situation. So, for instance, a far right individual could come in and say, "I want the town spending as little money as possible," and they would come in potentially and slash the town's budget, slash it to bare bones, and that would make it difficult for us to provide the same level of services to our residents that our residents enjoy. And I will mention, so that there is clarity, part of my platform is I want us to manage our budget in a fiscally conservative way so that we are responsible with our residents' taxpayer dollars. However, I think that that can be taken to an extreme. If someone wants the town, the local government to be spending as little as possible, it can come at the sacrifice of the services that our residents really love. And so I see that as a potential.
gotcha. Um, anything on the opposite end?
I think that the opposite end is similar.
It is hypothetical.
Yes, all of
Yeah,
this is, of course, hypothetical. I think that the opposite end could be similar in that taxation could increase with overspending. I think that the opposite end could come in with big visions of things to build, infrastructure, or other services. And while the money may not be readily available, they could have the vision to make the money readily available by increasing taxes. And that is something that I feel is not in the favor of our residents, to increase taxes unnecessarily. And I don't support that unless it is necessary. And I feel that could be the opposite end of radicalism, coming in with ideas that could be implemented into the town that would be a means of overspending the taxpayer funds of the residents of Lewisville. And I think that is potential with someone on the radical left coming in, and I
sure.
want us to be able to avoid that.
Yeah. All right, so we'll talk about staggered terms here for a second, and then that line of thinking kind of got me noodling on something. So I want to ask you another question after that. But talk to me about staggered terms, because this is something that is going to be on the ballot, I believe, in November as well. I think we're going to be voting on whether we are going to have staggered terms or not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just kind of the last thing I heard. But what's the benefits? What's the downsides? Where do you kind of fall when it comes to that?
Staggered terms comes down to two things in a pro versus con situation. It comes to the benefit of the continuation of present knowledge that is on the council, and the con is the level of accountability that elected officials have to the residents. Because if the elected officials do something that the residents overall in a majority really don't like during their term, then in the upcoming election, the entire council has the potential to be voted out for other individuals who decide to run. And the flip side of that is that if the entire council gets voted out, the knowledge that was present of what was going on at the time is lost. All of that historical knowledge, that institutional knowledge is lost. And so that is the benefit, is that if there are staggered terms, while some individuals may be voted off, the individuals that are staggered and will be staying on for the next 2 years, they carry forward that institutional knowledge. And this has become another controversial topic. There are pros and cons to both. And so our Louisville voters will have to weigh those pros and cons this November and choose whether or not to amend the charter of the town of Lewisville to include those staggered terms.
Yeah, I personally I am not really for staggered terms. I feel like give more power to the people, more options to vote or not to vote people in or out of office. Um, you know, it's yeah, I think the lack of continuity um is not really an issue if you're doing a good job, because if you are doing a good job, you're going to be voted again, and there's your continuity, right? Like, because you can have continuity both ways. Like, if people don't feel like you're doing a great job, well, at least you'll be able to continue to not do a great job for another
Yeah.
2 years. We're going to continue that. But no, I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. I know which way I'm going to be voting. I'm not saying anybody listening has to, agree with me or not. But yeah, it is something that I wish it wasn't the case. But
I do feel that you have a point in that a person who should be in office will, when elected, really do their homework to find out what's been going on so that they can step into their term and serve well. And I also feel that someone who desires to hold office should be doing their homework prior to holding office. And that's one thing that I've been doing since, I'd say for approximately a year now. I've been attending the the town council briefing, which occurs on the first Thursday of every month at our town hall. And it is where the town staff brief our council on everything that's going on. And I've also been attending on the second Thursday of every month the regular town council meeting. Both are open to the public, and anyone who wants to come can listen to what's going on in our town. And I feel that someone who is considering running for public office in local government or any other forum should be present at those meetings to learn what's going on leading into their election, so that there should be a seamless transition of knowledge. They've been doing their homework leading up into the election so that they can have the knowledge when elected. Unfortunately, at the briefings, I'm usually the only one of the public who is there, and there's usually a little bit more turnout at the regular town council meetings. I wish they were more widely attended so that would show more of our residents are engaging with the town government. However, I do see your point there. Someone who is seeking office should be doing their homework so that without continuity of knowledge, they can just step in there and be ready to go.
yeah, I yeah, and I wish I wish I was able to make it to those, but I will work at night. I have a really hectic schedule, but I work every Thursday night, so like I can't make it, unfortunately. I have on my calendar I have all the meetings, and I don't have any time when I'm like not doing something. And I feel like that's pretty much like a lot of people, they're not able to. People are busy, they've got kids or other obligations, they've got family and all that stuff. And how do you, and this is, we're going to move on from that to a more broader topic. How do you get people more engaged in their local government? Um, you know, it's very difficult. There's a lack of information that's readily available and on hand. Um, having the so I'm trying to fix that a little bit with my own little podcast here, but and streaming the town council meetings online is definitely a help. But um, how can how can we get more people engaged? Um, and uh, I have my own ideas, but I'm just curious if this is something that you've thought about at all, and if you have any ideas yourself.
Initially, I think our greatest tool is communication. And as you mentioned, the meetings are streamed online, and we have a communication specialist that is on staff with the town of Lewisville who I think does a great job. And so I think continuing to expand the level of communication that is from the town to the residents and beyond. I think that is the first key. We have varying levels of communication. We have the meetings that are streamed, but also our town newsletter that is mailed to all residents. There's the Facebook page, there's the Instagram and Twitter, and any residents who are listening, I really encourage you to follow the Facebook page, follow the Instagram if you're on Instagram, or Twitter, now X, if you are on those platforms, to know what's going on and be informed. So if something pops up that you would like to engage in, you are aware of it. I will also shout out the boards and committees. At the beginning of every year, I believe it's in February, applications are due if a resident would like to be a part of the boards, who would like to be a part of the boards and committees. They can submit an application, and the town and the council reviews, and they make board and committee appointments. And I know that the boards and committees of the town would like to have greater participation and a greater desire for involvement. And so I'll shout that out as well. If a resident would like to be more involved, they can join one of our boards and committees. I know that our town clerk also sends out communications via email to those who are on the distribution list of the agendas of meetings and things that are occurring in the town. And you can email the town clerk to get on that email distribution list. I feel like items that I'm discussing, many residents just don't know about, that they can email the town clerk to get on the distribution list, that the board and committee applications are generally due and received by February if if any individual wants to be a part of those boards and committees. And so I think continuing to spread information about how people can be more greater communicated to, or more greatly communicated to, and also how they can be involved. I think that is key.
Uh, Great points. I need to get on the email list. I don't think I'm on the email list. I definitely am on the Facebook page. I can jump on that. Those are good suggestions for sure. Um, yeah, I'm interested to see kind of what happens with this election, because it's an off year. It's not like we're, voting for like the big four. Senators don't get voted this time around, anything like that. It's a local election. Is it the same election, the same ballot areas, like the Lewisville Library is basically where people go to vote, or um, polling places, like, oh, is it the exact same as what it was last November, or
From my understanding, that is the way it will be. However,
okay.
it could be different. So
Because like I'm wondering, like, okay, I don't think there's a lot of, how many people live in Louisville?
I think approximately, the last time I checked, approximately 13,000.
13,000. Okay. How many people do you know that voted in the last election from
Well,
Louisville?
I've looked at the election data,
Yeah.
and the top vote getter for council received between 8 and 900 votes. Our Mayor Horn, received between 900 and 1,000 votes. And so that data speaks some to total number of voters
Yeah.
in the election.
That's like, that's less than 10%, I mean,
I would absolutely love to see higher voter turnout in Louisville. I feel that the average voter is engaged in presidential elections, or they're engaged in the midterm Senate election, because those are more highly present in the media, and people are involved more in partisanship, and so they want to go and support their party. However, local elections immediately affect the street we're driving on, and the businesses that we love to go and buy coffee from, or buy meals from, buy our items from. And I really wish that people would take a greater look and involvement in the local government, and really just the same as we vote for president, go and vote for our mayor, vote for our council, because it truly does matter and it truly does make an impact.
Well, if you want to get people to come out, just do something really wrong.
Well, that's going to be my goal of what not to do.
That's a good way
I'd
to get
love to
people
have
engaged.
voter turnout, but I don't want to be the one
I
who
know.
does the wrong thing.
They come with pitchforks down the road for you. Yeah. Well, it's been a nice conversation, and yeah, I appreciate your time. I feel like we covered quite a bit. Is there anything else that that you wanted to bring up, for the listeners?
I would just like to highlight what I'm doing at the moment and also the broad views of my platform for the listeners so that they can be fully engaged on me as a candidate. Me running for Lewisville Town Council, my top two priorities, and I've mentioned them throughout our time here, are number one, maintaining our small town culture. That's top priority. And number two is managing or helping to manage a fiscally conservative budget where we are really mindful of our spending and mindful that the money, the revenues that come in to Lewisville, those are taxpayer funds. The majority of the funds are from property taxes, and those come from people's hard-earned dollar. And so I want to be mindful of that in crafting a meaningful yet mindful budget. And I also want to just highlight where I'm at in the campaign phase right now. I'm gathering my designs for my sign, my material that I intend to pass out. I'm setting up a Facebook page currently that people will be able to follow, and I'm also accepting donations for people who want to help fund the campaign and to um, help further the vision that I have for Lewisville as a hopeful elected official. And so that's kind of where I'm at in the process. And I'd also like to invite anyone listening to share their thoughts, share their opinions with me. And if you'd like to be a donor, you can reach out to me. I'll shout out the campaign email address that I've set up. It is electbradyallen@gmail.com. That's electbradyallen@gmail.com. And so I want residents to be in touch with me. I want to hear your opinions and I want to be engaged. And so please feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brady. Good luck in the election. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your opinions and your views, and wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been excited about our conversation and it's been a really fun chat.